Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 6 of the Christmas Craft Countdown 2021, where I'm releasing a new Christmas craft project every day for 20 days. Today we're taking a little break from paper craft projects and instead we're going to be making a dog treat jar with some adhesive vinyl. This is really cute if you've got someone in your family or a close friend who has a dog and you'd like to give their dog that little extra special Christmas present this year with a treat jar personalised with their dog's name. I'm going to show you how to create the personalisation here, and then the whole rest of the jar is all decorated with little paw prints and bones, all in different festive vinyl colours. So let's see how to make it. First, you need to download the cutting file to make this project. If you aren't already signed up to the Christmas Craft Countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/Christmas 2021 to join. If you have already purchased the countdown, go to craftwithsarah.com/login to log in to your account and access all of the Christmas Craft Countdown files. Once logged in, click into the Christmas Craft Countdown. Scroll down the page and all the files will become available on the date specified. The files do not expire, so you can download them at any time. The files for this project are available under the Day 6 heading. After downloading the cutting files, you'll need to unzip the folder that they come in. If you aren't sure how to do that, check the link in the description of this video, which contains instructions on how to unzip folders on Windows computers, Macs, and Android and iPhone devices. There are lots of different types of jar that you could use for this project, so here's a few different options. The first is a mason style jar, and this one's got the little clip on it that you can clip to open. The three that I've got are all glass, but you could use a plastic jar too. So that's what that one looks like from the side. The second one is another glass one. This is a bit longer and taller than the other one, and this lid just pops on and off. You do want to make sure you've got something with a lid to keep all of your biscuits or dog treats nice and fresh inside. So that's the second one. And then finally the other option is one with a screw lid. So that just opens up, and then there's my glass jar. I bought all of these from The Range, which is a store in the UK, but you can get these types of jars from many different shops. So choose the jar that you're going to use and then grab a tape measure, because we'll need that in the next step to work out how to size all of the vinyl. I'm going to use this jar because it's got straight edges, whereas the other two are more rounded. And straight edges are going to be easier to stick the vinyl onto. So if you've got the option between a rounded one or a square edge jar, personally, I prefer the square edge jars for vinyl. It just makes it so much easier to stick everything on. Of course, you can still use the rounded ones, but when you're measuring things, it would be easier if you had a material ruler, like a dressmaker's ruler, because you'll be able to bend that around the glass, rather than what I've got, which is just a straight metal ruler. Which is fine for measuring this because it's all nice and straight, but I would struggle a bit trying to accurately measure these round surfaces. So here's the one I'm going to use. I like that it's got this rose gold bit around the edge. It's really pretty. And then I also found in The Range this little Christmas sprig. It's got pine cone on it and some leaves and little plastic berries. And as this is going to be a Christmas little treat, I'm going to cut the stem off, and then I'll glue gun this onto the top just to make it look extra special and festive once I've added all of the vinyl. After you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Start a new project in Design Space and then press Upload over on the left, and then go into Upload Image. The file you're looking for is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Don't try and upload any of the other ones into Cricut Design Space because they won't work. You need the one which starts SVG. I'm going to drag and drop that in, and then this is what it should look like. So then go and press Upload. This is now in my recent uploads, so I can click on it and then press Add to Canvas. So at the moment, these are two separate layers, which you can see over in the Layers panel, but they're grouped together, which means they're joined together at the moment, and I need to separate them. So with the image clicked, press Ungroup, and now they are separate. So now we can have a think about how we want to position the bones and the paw prints on the jar. Measure the size of your jar, and then we can make some templates in Design Space. Now, how you do this will depend on the type of jar that you have. So for mine, I've got a square jar. So I'm going to make 4 different rectangles, one for each side of my square jar. If you are using a circular jar, then what I'd recommend doing is measuring the height of it, and then also putting your measuring tape all the way around the edge to get the width, and then you can just make a long rectangle, kind of like you were making a wrap for a cup. So you'd be able to position all of your pictures along there and know that it will fit once you start transferring it. So for mine, I'm going to go into Shapes and choose a square. And then I've already measured mine, so I can tick this padlock at the top to unlock it. And then my width is 3 and the height is 4 inches. And then I will make this white so I can just see the outline, because we're only using this as a basic guide to know how big to make everything. And then I'll press duplicate at the top 3 times so that I've got one for every side of my jar. I will just show you what I mean about if you had a cylinder jar instead. So if I choose another square, let's say that your jar was 7 inches tall, and then when you measure all the way around the outside, it comes to 12 inches. So you would make one like this and then make it white, and then add all of your pictures on top of this rectangle, so then you'll know that when you've cut it all out, they're all going to fit. Let's just delete that one, and I'll move back to my 4 little rectangles. On the first side of the jar, I want to have the bone. Now this is appearing underneath at the moment, so I can go into Arrange and then Center Front, and now it's on the front. So I'll have this on one side, and I'm going to add the dog's name along it, and then on all of the other ones, I'll put some paw prints. And you can make them as big or as small as you like. And duplicate it so you've got different ones. And I'm just using this as a guide, this rectangle, so I kind of roughly know how many paw prints I can fit onto each side of the jar. And then I'll also add some smaller bones to fill in those gaps as well. We'll change the colour of everything in a little while. Alright, so that's that filled in, and that will roughly be what each side of my jar looks like. So for these two, I'm going to actually delete those because they're just going to be the same as this one. So I can drag a box around this one, and I'll just move it up to the top so it's easier to see, and then press Group. So now all these are in a group. I'm going to duplicate it twice, and then that will be my 3 different sides, and then the front one will be the one with the name. So I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing that little bit easier. And I think what I will do is add the name at the top and then write the word treats and cut that out of the dog bone so that you'll be able to see, maybe see the treats inside, although that might not quite show through. I think if I did the bone in white, it would work. All right, so first I'm going to add the name. So go into text and choose a name. So there we go, a name in there. And then I want to change the font to something nice and pretty. That looks nice. And then I want to cut the word treats out of this bone. So let's, oops, shapes was wrong, go into text. And I'm going to do this all in capitals. And then I want a nice bold font so that we'll be able to see it. Maybe that one. Okay. So I'll position that, and then I want that to appear exactly in the middle of the bone. So I'll choose the layer in the layers panel, press shift on my keyboard, choose the bone, so that's right down the bottom, and then go into align and center. I was pretty close actually, that didn't move very much. So there we go, that is now completely centered. So now with those layers still selected, I can go down the bottom and press slice. And that has cut the word out of that bone shape. I don't need these two, I'm just going to keep that one. And then have a little think about what else I might want to go. And I think just some little paw prints around the edge will look nice. So let's get my paw back. I'm going to just click on one of the paws in the layers panel and press duplicate. And then add a few. Do you know what? I might actually do two. Oops, like this. Just put them in the middle and then move them up a bit. I'm going to write paws off underneath. Because he doesn't want anybody stealing his treats. Okay, awesome. So I'm not worrying too much about getting all of this centered because I'm going to cut it from different colors anyway. So now that I'm happy with the design of how every side of my little jar is going to look, I can think about the colors. I don't need to keep these rectangles anymore, so I'll delete those because now I know everything is looking good. If you think you might want them again in the future, then don't delete them. Just find the layers in the layers panel that are these squares and click the eye next to them, and that will hide them from view. But if you ever want them again in the future, you can turn them back on just by clicking that eye again. But when they're hidden, when that eye has been clicked, it means they're not actually going to cut out, which is what we want. Okay, so I want to change the colour of some of these. Let's go for some blue bones and paw prints. Let's go orange and maybe a purple or green. Green, I quite like that green. And then what you can do is go into Colour Sync and then just drag the paws and everything onto, that was one of those ones, onto the right colour. This can get a bit tricky for things like this where you've got lots because you don't know which one is which. So it might actually just be easier to click on each one individually in the layers panel and then change the colour. Maybe I'll add in a yellow too. This is always the hardest part for me, choosing colours. So I'm going to keep them to these four because I don't want to use up too much vinyl for this. But for each side, I will make them different. So on this one, I'll go for green and orange bones. So it's kind of the opposite of that one. Orange, and then the paw prints will be blue and yellow. And then this one I'll make it different again so that they're just in different places. So that one can be yellow and then This one I'll do blue because we don't have any blue bones down there. Which means my paw prints have got to be green and orange. Okay, that is going to look so cool. All right, on this one, because the word treats will be, you'll be able to see the biscuits in that, I want my bone to be white, just to give it the most contrast possible, because I know that my treats are a dark colour, so I want to be able to see it. And then for the word Todd's, let's think, I think that probably should be white again. And then the paws, I'll do orange, and paws off can go in white again. Okay, I think I'm happy with how that is going to look. When you click Make It Now, it's not going to keep the order that we've put anything in. It will just lay them out like this. So it's up to you. You can either do it like that and then manually move all of the paw prints and bones separately, or you can join the colours together. If you join them together, it will use up more vinyl, but it will be easier to stick them on. I'm going to join my front parts together and leave the rest of it. So click on one of the words and then press Shift on the keyboard and choose the other ones. I'm going to just align these horizontally so that they're all lined up nicely. And then down the Layers panel, press Attach. Attach tells the Cricut that we want these to cut in this exact position. So now when I click Make It and look at the white, you can see it's kept these in the same position. For everything else, I'm happy to just cut it using as little vinyl as possible. So I'll move them about so there is a bit of space between each paw print, and then that will make it easier to weed off the excess vinyl. And also it means it'll be easier to kind of cut them apart so that I can move them to the different places. I'm going to be using transfer tape because all these little paw prints, all the little pads on the feet will be separate. So that's why I want to move these apart. So for all of the coloured sections, all of the bones and paw prints here, just going to make sure there's a little bit of a gap between each one. And then when I've done that, I can click Continue. It'll connect to my Cricut machine and I can cut this out. You want to use adhesive vinyl for this, either removable or permanent will be fine. And I'm going to set this on just the vinyl setting or possibly the premium vinyl setting when I cut this out with my Cricut Maker. But most vinyls come with a little guide on which setting you need to choose in Cricut Design Space to be able to cut it out. Because we're using adhesive vinyl, you do not need to mirror any of the shapes. So once you're happy with how everything's looking, go ahead, click Continue, and get everything cut out, and then we'll see how to stick it all onto the glass jar. I'm just adding in one little aside before I cut everything out. So I've just realised that I was going to add that really pretty pine cone and berries and things to the top of the jar. And if I did that, it wouldn't actually match these colours that I've chosen for the paws. So I'm going to change my colour scheme completely to match that little pine cone thing. So instead of these colours, I'm going to use more Christmassy colours. I'm going to do red and green and some gold and silver. So yeah, if you're going to be putting anything on top of the jar like I am, just bear that in mind when you choose your colours. That was almost a rookie mistake, but luckily I caught it just in time. Here's all my vinyl cut out in the more Christmassy colours, and I've already weeded it. So I've taken away all of that excess. And then I've got my jar and some transfer tape. So this is just Cricut regular transfer tape. And then I've got some alcohol wipes that I can clean the glass before I stick the vinyl to it to make sure there's no fingerprints or dust or anything on there that might stop the vinyl from sticking properly. I'll start with the front of the glass. So I'll just lay it down and open up one of these alcohol patches. And these are really fiddly to unwrap. Just going to give this a good wipe. It's a good idea to do this if you can, because if there are any blemishes, then it can impact how that vinyl sticks down. So I'm just giving it a really good wipe, and then I need to wait for that to dry. But whilst it's drying, I'm not going to touch that bit that I've cleaned with my hands in case I put any more fingerprints or oils from my hands or anything on there. So the front is going to be this one. It says Todd's Treats, Pours Off, so it's all of my white. And let's add the transfer tape while we're waiting for that to dry. So I'll cut a little bit to size. There we go. And then start at one corner and just start peeling it off. And then stick it over the top. I just completely dropped that. I was looking at my little camera and not at what I was doing. Oh dear. Right, that covers it all, so it's fine. Oh, I did that so badly. Anyway, what I was trying to do was just get a little bit up and then be able to stick everything down, but that just didn't happen. Alright, so I'm using my scraper tool to push this down, and then hopefully when I peel the backing off, oh, I missed a little bit, all of my vinyl should be stuck to the transfer tape and not to what it was on before. So you might need to keep going over it a little bit, especially with some of these letters down the bottom, as they're really, really small. You want to make sure you've got all of the dots on eyes and all of that. So, here we go. That O is being really stubborn. There we go. And then I'm going to trim this. And the reason I've trimmed it is just so it doesn't go back over that bit and stick again. I'm just pushing down this bit at the top. Make sure you get all the little bits inside the letters in the word that we sliced out of the bone. I'm not very good at vinyl, I'm just putting it out there. I'm definitely more of a paper crafter. But the point of this Christmas craft countdown is to push us all out of our comfort zone. So for me, that is vinyl projects. Oh, I'm missing the middle of that R. There we go. And I'll just trim that again, making sure I don't get any of the next bit of vinyl. The vinyl I'm using is a mixture of Cricut white permanent vinyl, which is this one, and then the silver and the gold is Cricut removable vinyl, and then the red and green is just some off-brand cheap adhesive vinyl I bought online, which isn't very good, which you'll see in one of the later Christmas craft countdown projects. But for this, it works just fine. Okay, so trying to decide if I want to add the two little paw prints now or if I'll do that after. Not sure. I meant to bring some parchment paper so I could layer it a bit easier. And then I forgot. I think I'll try and line it up now. So these are just going to go. Oh no, that's not going to work. I need to stick that down to something. Just attach that to the table. And then just, where's this going to go? Line that up a bit. So I've just put a bit of that transfer tape backing back on. I haven't pushed it down, but this is just so I can line that up a bit easier against the gold. And then adhere that gold. Hopefully that'll come off. Haven't quite got it. Try not to touch the sticky parts of the white vinyl very much. There, that's nearly there. One and two. Okay. And then I need to take off the sellotape. That actually wasn't a very smart thing to do because I got that sellotape over the pores off. But it's still gonna work. I have faith. Alright, so here is my glass jar. And then I can just line this up where I want it to go. And then push it down. And now I can put my fingers on it because I'm touching the top of that transfer tape. I'm not actually touching the glass itself. So I just need all of that to stick. I don't want to use the scraper at this point because I don't want to scratch the glass. So just rub it with my fingers. And then hopefully, oh no, hopefully it will come off the transfer tape. There it is now. Just needs a little bit of gentle persuasion. I find pulling the tape back at a 45-degree angle can help. Okay. Still stuck a little bit. And I want to make sure again that all of those middles of the letters come off. One of the things that frustrates me about vinyl is it just takes so long, but I think that's because I'm not actually very good at it. I think if I had a bit more practice, things like this would go a lot quicker. If you have any super vinyl tips, leave them in the comments because I definitely need them. There we go. That is the front of my jar. That is looking amazing. I love that white on it. That looks really cool. Alright, so we can move on to the other sides now. So just turn it round. And we need to clean it again. I think my other pad's probably dried out. No, it still seems okay. Use this one. Okay. Now, I've wiped that. I just need to wait for it to dry. What I've done whilst I was waiting for that to dry is just cut out all of the bits I'm going to be using on this particular side. So I've got a little picture on my phone of my Design Space screen so I can remember where I was going to put everything. And I'm going to start with the paw prints, and for those I'm going to use a little bit more transfer tape. In fact, I'm going to use the same piece because you can reuse it. And the reason I'm using the transfer tape for the paws is so that I don't have to reposition each of those little bits individually. So I'll start with this one, and I'm just going to do one at a time. I'll just do one side on camera so that you're not watching me for the next 3 hours, which is probably what it will take for me to actually get it done. So I'm just going to put this roughly where it was on my little Design Space mock-up. Not worrying too much about being super accurate. Just rub it down to transfer all that vinyl, and then pull it back, and that's one paw print done. So now we can move on to the next one, which is the one down the bottom right, and again that's a silver one. So just the same, put it onto a bit of transfer tape. Oh, missed a bit. Oh, I just realised you can't really see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. There we go. And then put that there. Give it a little rub. That'll do. Okay, for the bones, I'm not going to use transfer tape because they're all in one piece. So I can just peel them off like a sticker. Try not to touch the backs of them too much, as it can affect the stickiness. So just grab it on the edge and then stick it down where it's going to go. And then I'll do the other bones. Red one. There, and then I just have the paw prints left. I'll push this all down and stick it a little bit better once I've got everything on this layer together. I'm going to cut my transfer tape smaller now, just so that I don't take anything off by mistake. So one for that paw, one for that paw, and give it a little press. There, oh, that one came off nice. Must have been a fluke. One there. Rub it down. Nope. This is my cheapy internet vinyl that I pretty much always have problems with. I really need to just replace it. Oh dear, that is not coming off. Okay, this might take a while. It's not even trying to come off. Please give me your transfer tape tips. Oh, a couple of them are working. Alrighty, there is hope, there is hope. Just don't want to scratch the glass. Ah, okay. Oh, this is ridiculous. This was supposed to be a quick craft project for today. Oh, there. Kind of. Okay. I swear vinyl hates me. Maybe it can sense fear. There we go. And then one more. Might actually have been quicker to just pick all of the little bits of the paw print up with my fingers or something. But hey. Okay. Straight in with the scraper this time. It might be because I'm putting it over the curve on the glass a little bit. Ah, that was coming off and then it changed its mind. I don't know why I do this to myself. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just finish this off camera because this is taking forever and you're probably fed up of me getting frustrated at it. This side's nearly done, so you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. So I'll go ahead, finish the other sides, and then we'll see how to put it all together, and we'll put the little sprig of pine cones and everything else on the top. I've now completed all of the different sides with all of the little paw prints and bones, and it's looking really nice. It did take me quite a long time though. So I'm going to stick the little bit on top. But before I do that, whilst my glue gun's heating up, let's fill it up. So I've got some pedigree gravy bones, which are going to go in here. So let's fill this up. Okay, that looks like a good amount. Close that up, make sure it's nice and tight. And now you can see where I wanted the front to be in white because it shows all of the colour of the gravy bones through the holes. And then you can see all of the other sides, and that just looks really, really cool. Now you could leave it as it is or add a little bit on top. So that's what I'm going to do. My glue gun appears to be hot. Well, it's definitely smelling, so I think that means it's probably hot. And what I've done with this is I've cut the wire down that was on the bottom. So I'm just going to glue gun it to the top so it will look something like that. Very, very festive. So I think just a big blob, and hopefully this won't be hot enough to smash the glass. Actually, I think that lid's plastic. Hopefully it won't melt the plastic. Let's put that on there. Wait for that to dry. This step is completely optional, but as I had these little sprigs, I thought it would just be extra nice for Christmas. There we go, that looks like that has dried on. And there, that looks super, super cute. I know Todd is going to love it. And there we go, our little dog treat jar for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make a little personalised dog treat jar for Christmas. Don't forget to get the vinyl files, go to craftwithsarah.com/Christmas 2021. I'll be back again tomorrow with another Christmas craft, but until then, thank you for watching. Bye!